Hi,
This is becoming correct.
hi. This is Summer Todd. My show tonight, we have a guest, Mark Edworthy. We're going to be kind of interviewing him about some things, emergent behavior. Austin's kind of going to kick that off, my son. So let's get started. And hi, I mean, and Mark is on the screen, so we welcome him tonight.
Uh, Thank you for joining the show, Mark. So, can you start off by giving us a walkthrough of what emergent behavior is?
What amazing thing is I'm capsulized at the time, a bit ago. Did I say at the time? So I've got to go through that and just comment on to remind myself.
See ya.
I think he's having audio.
Can you hear him, Roger?
Yeah.
He's having a little bit of an audio issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give it a second. It usually straightens out with him. There's some kind of weird thing that happens with his head. It could be his head or his face, one of the two.
Yeah, I didn't hear a word he said because he was cutting in and out.
Yeah.
Do I need to ask him again, or did you get what he said?
It's becoming extremely crackly.
Yeah, the same on this side
This
too.
is becoming extremely crackly. Last time I came across this problem, it was easy for me to restart my entire machine.
Now, do like you usually do. Back out and come back in.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, it's probably something to my audio framework. I'm going to have to restart the machine, so you'll have to give me a few minutes.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
While he's doing that, I guess we could kick off with a little story. I mean, that little from that Austin and I discussed. Do you want to do that, Austin? Yeah.
Yeah, we can. Do you remember all the details?
I'm pretty sure I do now. This is just Mark's having some technical difficulties, so we're just kind of moving on a little bit. I don't know if this is an example of emergent behavior, but this was probably back in the 90s. My husband had his cell phone on our dining room table, and then like Austin and I were in the living room, and then my husband and my daughter were on a computer in another room. And she had her phone. She had a cell phone. So, I'm talking to Austin. We're just chatting, watching TV or something. And then the next thing you know, my husband comes storming into the living room and told Austin, he said, "I told you to stay off my phone and quit messing with my phone." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "First off, Austin's been here with me the whole time." And he said, "Well, I just got a call, came into Chantel's phone." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know how that happened because, I said, 'Where is your phone?' I didn't even know where his phone was. And he's like, 'Well, it's in the dining room.' I said, 'Well, Austin's been here with me in the living room, so there's no way he could get in the dining room without me, he's been here with me.' So that was kind of freaky. He couldn't figure out how it happened. And the call was on his call log, but actually I think when he went in there, the phone might have been off too. And that was another strange thing. But in our house, there were two rooms that were very haunted. It was the dining room where his phone was, and the computer room where my daughter's phone was, and they, where they were on the computer. So I always thought that was kind of strange. I don't know if that's emergent behavior, but it's definitely a little paranormal. So, yeah. Can you hear me, Austin?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Still there, Roger?
I don't know. Is he gone too?
Oh, well, let me scroll down here. Oh, his microphone's turned off.
Why do you do that? I wonder. And maybe he's helping.
Maybe he's listening in on us.
Oh. Well. Yeah, that was one example. I don't know. Did we have some other weird computer things happen at that?
We used to have the printer come on by itself and print stuff out, and sometimes jobs weren't even queued up in it.
Right.
That was kind of. I mean, if it's one thing if jobs were queued up in it and then it got rebooted, but there was times that happened and that wasn't the case.
That room was kind of odd, especially with electronics. I think it was just a strange room to have a computer in. Yeah. But I know, we had things happen at work that was kind of odd sometimes too, like that. But the weird thing about computers that I think is like, I was going to class, like a computer class in Middletown here where I live, and I had to take an exam, and it was about, they had all these equations and stuff, mathematical equations and things like that. And I don't know what that had to do with computer stuff, but I guess it was just learning how to do those equations. But so I get into the exam and I realize I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because I was like, I'm going to flunk this exam. And I went back into another screen, and I found all the answers from the person that had been there before. And I knew a couple of them were right. So I thought, well, I'll use these, because there's no way I'm going to do it. So I did. And what was really weird is they were all there. But when I got to the computer to do the exam, I logged in. So how is that stuff out there? I mean, I know there's history out there, but how is the whole answer, all of that person's answers on that screen? How did I find those? It's kind of odd. It's like if you look around enough, whatever's been on a computer, you'll find it somewhere. It's almost
absolutely.
Now, see, back whenever I remember first hearing about all the stuff on computers, and especially the web, everybody used to say if you put it on the internet, there's no deleting it. It's there.
Yeah, it is.
But now all of a sudden people just don't acknowledge that. They're acting like they can just delete everything that they put on here, and it'll go away.
Oh no, there's if you ever watch like murder mysteries or in theaters, the detectives, they can find so much on computers, even if you think you've deleted it. But what's weird to me is, like, I'm not real good with computers, but I'm real tenacious. So there's been times where I'm looking for something and I'm just trying to figure out stuff. And then it's like you're going off. This is really weird. It's like you're going for a walk and you're going into the forest, and you keep going and you find something. And that's what you do on computers sometimes. You be trying to find something for yourself, and the next thing you know, you found something you shouldn't have found, or there's just something that comes up, and it's strange like that. And that's why I don't trust them, because I think we got our banking and we got our stuff online, and you can just accidentally get into stuff. And if you're on them enough and long enough, I think the computers can even get confused. It seems like. I know that. I really have gotten into some areas, like at work. Sometimes I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to be here, and I don't know how I got here. So I don't know how that happens. I just guess because it's all out there, like you said.
I remember years ago, my dad was having issues with his cell phone, so he called the customer support, and it was in India.
Yeah.
And there was an Indian tech support guru talking to him. He had Dad getting into all kinds of stuff on his phone that he wasn't even aware existed. Dad was he was just blown away. He was like, it's like, I didn't even know my phone could do some of the stuff this guy had me doing on my phone, and some of the stuff that was on it even existed.
Well, that's the way everything is now, though. Like with our cars, thing. We don't know half the stuff they do, and there's just
not even a quarter.
right. I say, are you back, Mark?
Yeah, I'm back. Thanks.
Okay, we can hear you better.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so
no crackling now.
So, Roger, do you want me to ask Mark the opening question again, or did you get his answer?
You can do it if you want. I mean, we're already in the middle of the episode.
Right. So yeah, go ahead.
I'll ask him again. All right. So, thanks again for joining our show tonight, Mark. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So, can you please start by giving us a basic walkthrough of what emergent behavior is, and how it has arisen to be a thing in the technology world?
Not sure about how it has arisen. That's probably a very complicated subject. But just to give you a definition, emergent behavior is something that is a non-obvious side effect of bringing together a new combination of capabilities. So, as an example, bringing in the internet and video. No, that's actually a bad example. I can't think of any good examples at the moment. My brain's gone dead.
Maybe when you bring together like net and video, like you saying, there's possible things that can happen with all of the ins and outs and all that lead to some other outcome.
Yeah,
how I'm understanding.
Yeah,
kind of what you're
saying.
Right.
But as far as how it come across, I suppose that's you could argue it's the same thing as people writing things down and then the creation of the Gutenberg press is a good example, I think.
Yeah, because a lot of things come out of something like that. So that's your basic overview of what it is. And there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of different things come together at once, and they create an unexpected outcome.
Right.
In your opinion, Mark, being a big tech support guy, having been in this field for years, like you've been, do you think it's just the result of bringing a lot of different operating systems and operations together, or do you think it's possible that technology to some extent is taking on a life of its own?
Life of its own, in what sense? I suppose you could argue any technology, may that be a pencil or a computer or the wheel, has created new ideas, new principles.
But it's also the operators, Austin, the people, because like I said, I was talking earlier when you were out, Mark, about how like I'm not great with computers, but like at work sometimes I'm very tenacious, and I would go and to try to find out what I'm do something, and I would end up where I shouldn't have been. So I think there's something with computers. I don't know, actually it's humans that put all the information in there, and maybe you can confuse it. You can confuse the programs and stuff, and so you end up in places you shouldn't be, or that's why I trust them. I think there's so much you can come upon.
There is an old joke in the industry which goes something like error at the end of the keyboard. It's, or the other one is what you put in is what you get. So as the user, you are putting in information, and if you put in the incorrect information, some odd things can happen.
Right. Like taking. Can you guys hear me? I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said it's kind of like taking a walk into the forest, and maybe you shouldn't go any further, but you go into another area and you find out if you see the house or something you're not supposed to see. It takes you on its own path sometimes.
Mm.
And I know when it first started, like, I know I talked to some kid that worked at a savings and loan or something, and he said him and his friends would always like erase each other's loan. Now, back then, I don't know if they could go back and see I'm sure they could, but he said that they were pretty careful with it, but a lot of them would just like get rid of their car loans and things like that. So there's always people that are doing stuff shouldn't, but that's a little different than emergent behavior. But it is the the users, have some component there too, or.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on if you look at in the sort of domestic sort of environment, you get end users at home messing around with their own machines, then yeah, that's more than probable. But in a good, structured, locked down sort of corporate environment, that's going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, what is?
But there's always ways to kind of fool the programs and computers too, right?
Again, depends on how locked down they are. If, let's say, your IT management information service department is taking logs of everything you do,
yeah,
then it's going to be much more difficult for you to fool the machine.
yeah, yeah.
So basically, with emergent behaviors, how does that have like a mysterious twist to it? Like it sounds to me like all of it basically stems from the user. How does it kind of set itself apart from just error basically?
I don't know. You could argue that the creation of a lot of well-known inventions came from errors. So thinking something like penicillin or something. Somebody creates something for a specific purpose, and then that product is used elsewhere later on. So Teflon, being a good example, that was used for specifically the space race, and now we all use it in our cooking applications.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting how stuff takes on a life of its own and morphs into other things. So to me, if you ask me, it's kind of like it starts with the operator, and we set a whole bunch of different things in motion, and it's like this butterfly effect, and we're coming out with results that are far beyond what we set in motion just when we originally put in. And it's so kind of the whole concept kind of takes on a life of its own,
Right.
and our creation kind of could tend to get away from us, if you look at it in that respect.
Well, and two, don't you think? I think, like I said, I'm not a big computer person, so correct me if I'm wrong. But when you make a program or you do a program, or you you think about how the people are going to use it. And maybe you just don't realize that people are going to do something totally different, Um, and then that kind of messes things up, or there's an unintended consequence on the computer or with the program. Um, I've seen that just from paying online bills. Like, there'll be some weird little thing that just confuses everybody, but when they actually put that into place, that somebody was thinking, oh, they'll just go to this screen and then they'll know what to do, and then they'll go to this next screen. But then everybody kind of gets all balled up there. So then you call customer service and there's like millions of people on the line because they're like, we were all stuck at this place. And so I think that's a lot of it is we program everything we kind of trying to think of how the other person is going to think. We do it with our cars and stuff too. It's like, oh, that's supposed to be real easy to do something in a car, but then you're in there and you're like, who thought of this? How does this work? So I guess that's a lot of it. And then I don't know if that's emergent behavior, but yeah.
I mean, in a way, it sort of is, because like I was saying, it takes on unintended consequences and things such as that, but not in the way of a computer taking on a life that's
right, because they say
now
now
Mark, when working in the field, have you ever observed computers talking to each other when they were not programmed to do so, or doing things they were not necessarily programmed to do?
Not intentionally programmed. A bug might arise with, I don't know, you inputting something into a database and then a bug arises and that clears those database records, as an example.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just those is the most obvious example.
Now, earlier, they mentioned cars. Okay, now when you're talking emergent behavior, what about the recalls that happened with Tesla, where they had to recall their cars because they were actually trying to take off on their own and stuff like that? You remember that?
Yeah, I think I did remember hearing that.
I've heard so many scare stories about electronic vehicles.
They said the AI was screwing up on them, and they had to recall them because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen this in other industries. At the end of the day, it's really down to testing and quality assurance processes. The majority of it is. If you produce something that has some, let's say, dodgy sort of code in it, and that will appear sooner or later when the users are using it. But this is why when if you've noticed in the Canaries room, it's on mine, I'm always talking about quality assurance, making sure that the quality assurance processes are up to scratch.
Yeah. Now, since you're actually on this show, I have the privilege of being able to ask you this question, and it actually is suitable. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so here goes. Do you see, because of emergent behavior, a chance that someday technology will frickin' take over the world and destroy mankind?
I've read so much science fiction in my time. Never say never, I think it would be the best answer for that. Who knows what could happen?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to know if there was a possibility that there'll be a rise of the Terminator and not
Any
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
anything is possible.
RoboCop
Probability.
going
It's
around.
the probability that is the important issue.
Okay, so
It's
back
possible, but not probable.
back a while ago, you sent me an article that had to do with that computer over in England that I made a video out of. You remember that? Where it
The
was,
ghost story.
yeah, the
Yes,
ghost story.
the 1984 thing,
Now,
82 thing.
you shared that with Austin and everybody, I believe, wasn't it? Earlier. Now, do you believe that that could be a form of emergence behavior?
I am quite skeptical. In arguably, there was in the video there was a discussing with an academic, a historian, who demonstrated that some of the language that was used wasn't appropriate for the time period. So it could be just a scam. Could have been just a simple scam to sell books or something.
It's impossible to say for sure exactly what happened, but it's just something we keep an open mind to, basically.
Right.
But I mean, it is interesting that the micros were doing that.
Now, when you're talking language too, are you talking computer language?
Oh no, the story was about what was that, BBC micro that was just solitary machine in some of these office that was spitting out what seemed to be a conversation from some sort of time traveler from the 16th century or something.
Yeah, that's really odd. I saw that. I was watching that. That is really.
Yeah, they were. My understanding of it in a nutshell was someone from the year 200109 took a computer of someone in the 1500s because they had time travel technology by then.
Yeah.
And they used the person in the 1500s used the computer to communicate with a BBC micro in 1985. And these three time periods, 1500s, 1985, and 2109 were relaying messages with each other for some reason. So, because 2109 initiated the entire thing by going and linking somebody from the 1500s up to another time before them, after them, and then before 2109. They're connecting people from different time periods for some reason. But the thing I didn't understand was what purpose would that have been for? Why would someone in the year 2109 want to link all these people from different centuries talk to each other? I mean, it's an amazingly interesting concept, but why would they do it? Because the 2109 was never really clear why exactly they were doing it. From what I could understand, they said there was some divine purpose to it or something that was going to propel humanity forward, but that they couldn't delve into what it was. So that
trying to act like there's time travel or something.
Yeah. Apparently, people like the year 2109.
Well, there's always been those stories like we saw some on Unsolved Mysteries, like back in the 1800s or something. They had a picture with this guy supposedly had a cell phone, and it like so there's weird like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, we could do an entire episode on like time slips and pictures and stories that supposedly point to it. And that story Mark gave us about the the BBC Micro, that kind of does tie into that concept. But you know, as always, who knows really if it's true or not? You know, it's
right.
impossible to say.
Something that confused me about that video is it was very rare at the time for people to have any sort of means of communication or telecommunications using those devices. And I don't think it was actually ever mentioned in the video about if it was connected to a telephone line or not.
Right.
I suspect it wasn't.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you did say, though, that he was a teacher and that the computer came from the school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But even in that sort of scenario, at the time, external communication was not that much heard of.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, because I remember when I was in school and they had computer class and stuff, and all the students would go into the library and there was all these. They were networked in the school, you know what I mean? But they weren't hooked up to the internet.
Right.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
They would
The
teach us how to
BBC
type.
uses a connector protocol called Ethernet, and as far as I can say, within the UK, Ethernet wasn't used that much.
Right.
So yeah.
Now, with what you guys were saying too, you got to also understand this, okay? If they are a network of time travelers, they would have to communicate with one another. So that means they would have to have a system where they could communicate. So one could be in the 16th century, one could be in the 10th century, and one could be in the 21st century. They would communicate.
Right. Huh. That's interesting.
According to the guy in the 1500s in that video, the people from 2109 brought him and his family what he called a box of lights to use to communicate, and that was what linked him to 1985 and 2109 somehow.
Huh.
But
Yeah, but why would they want to talk to him, though? I mean, he's just like a sheep herder, and wasn't he? He was a sheep herder. No, he's a teacher.
No, he was a teacher. He was a teacher. I can't remember which subject. I was a primary school teacher, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. School teacher, I think.
And the guy from the 1500s was the sheep herding farmer.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. He was a sheep herder, right? The guy from the past was the sheep herder.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of odd right there. But
and also, if it is a sheep herder from the 15th century, 16th century, how literate would that person be?
Yeah.
Would that person be able to write, type or write?
Exactly, being a sheep herder, especially because we were talking about literacy with the Shakespeare episode I was doing, or we were doing with Bob Dub, and like they didn't like what was it? I think they said that people who are in today's world, people who are 18 to 20 have like 10,000 freaking words in their vocabulary, and by the time they hit 50 or 60 it goes up to like 45,000.
Wow.
And they said that during that time period of Shakespeare, freaking it would have been a lot smaller. So in my opinion, I would see like the average person at the age of 18 to 20 even being smarter when it comes to literacy than people back in the 15 or 1600s, because at least they went to school and they got an education for all those years, you know. So
yeah, illiteracy was so common back then, you know, the overwhelmingly vast majority of people. And this guy was supposed to have written a book in Latin or something on top of being able to write in English.
yeah.
And then, and he said he hid the book somewhere at a university or something. So I don't know if they ever went looking for it to find where maybe this book was or not. That might be a smoking gun if they could find that. But even still, that doesn't answer the question of literacy necessarily.
No.
But if you even know, irrelevant of then, only real sort of good academics know Latin. I can speak a little bit of classic Latin, but very little.
Yeah. That's kind of a weird thing. Yeah, that's not a common language, is it?
Not anymore. Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the medical field and science field,
Mm-hmm.
botany and stuff. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that is pretty odd. Now,
Mm.
I do want to ask one question, and this really is important. Um, with this, what was it called again? Immersive behavior. Now,
Emergent.
emergent,
Emergent
emergent.
behavior.
Do you
Emergent.
see it as being an issue with AI and what they're doing with AI today?
Again, you know my criticisms of what is being
Well,
claimed
peop
to be artificial
people
intelligence.
on the screen don't know, so you're going to have to spell that out because I like hearing that. So yeah, go ahead and just say it out loud so that people can hear it again.
Okay, okay. A lot of things that are being described as artificial intelligence are no more than things like database queries. We've had database queries for decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Search for this entry in this database, as an example. So I find that the term artificial intelligence is just another sort of corporate buzzword. It's just latest fad buzzword, much like cloud was or um, but yeah, just a buzzword which is in most parts meaningless.
Yeah, okay. So now that you've covered that, do you see all of that being an issue when it comes to immersive the behavior?
Emergent.
Do you
The
see it as
behavior.
being do you see it as being an issue with a lot of that going on today?
It will be an issue as far as advertising and marketing and filling the uneducated, much to say, the uninitiated. So yeah, again, we get bombarded by adverts that are just full of jargon, meaningless words all the time, um, and people buy the latest gadgets based on these um, pretty poor advertising
They,
mechanisms, methods.
don't they call them like buzzwords or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, buzzwords. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of
So it's
gives you.
kind of a selling point for like the latest gadgetry in a lot of cases.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which again, in reality, is totally meaningless
Yeah,
if you
we're
really look at it.
susceptible to that, though. You know, it, as people.
Yeah, I played around with some of that AI in the last week or so, and there's a lot of things that struck me kind of peculiar. Like they like to call it artificial intelligence, but the thing of it is like if you have two things that relate to one another, but they're geographically separated, they won't correlate the two instances and come up with an answer appropriately because they don't see the connection between something in Africa taking place and something in India taking place, like say 1,000 years ago. They just don't relate those two incidences together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
if we use an example like ChatGPT as a good example, that is just really a glorified search engine. It just looks at other sources, so other database entries, and then just spouts out an answer based upon those other sources. I think me, you, Roger, and was it Chris Duguid had a conversation back on in the previous stream about what is intelligence, the definition of what is intelligence, which is a very
or
large area,
yeah, I
old
believe it
area.
was Mr. Robot and Tan. That's
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
Tan.
What was
That was the good episode where Mr. Robot got me in trouble on Facebook or YouTube.
indeed, indeed, yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, Mr. Superstar.
Huh. That's weird.
Yeah, it was interesting, and don't worry about the subject matter because we don't want to get in trouble again.
Yeah, he got you a strike on your channel
Yeah, well, it
for
was a
a
warning. It was a warning. Thank God it was just a warning, and I
Yeah.
think it's done,
Huh.
but I'm not sure. It wasn't on this one or my other strange stories. It was on my Praetorian. No, it was on. Actually, it was on my working with audio and video. It was my archive of all the stuff I've done. You know what I mean? Since I started doing
Mm.
audio and video, and we were doing tech talk on there, and he had to say the one word that would get YouTube pissed off at me. And mind you, this was about technology. Okay, it was tech talk,
Yeah.
and Robot got me in trouble.
Well, it was a tech talk, but it was more philosophy than
Oh
anything.
yeah, you can go so many directions with AI. Like all of a sudden, we were talking about what God and creating freaking other intelligence that. Well, we actually just got out of that conversation last week, I believe, didn't we, Austin?
Fairly.
yeah. That's interesting how it does wind up tying into so many other concepts that one could be could consider paranormal. I
Right.
think me and you were, and I think the three of us on one episode of the mystery show, it might have been a couple weeks ago. I was talking about how since we're spirits or energy, so to speak, they could get into technology and eventually use it to break down the barrier that exists between the world of the living and the dead. I think you might remember that, Roger.
Yeah, I think I remember you talking about that.
So
Yeah.
going back to
Yeah.
the principles of the 19th century and seances and all that paranormal sort of stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That was what it was actually that started the whole conversation. It got pretty good, but then Mark, we started talking about emergent behavior, and that's when Austin said that we needed to discuss it with you because
Right.
we want to know if emergent behavior has anything to do with strange phone calls showing up on a phone 10 years after they were sent.
I would need more details than that, but I doubt it.
Well, we've got
That
details.
sounds odd.
We got details, believe it or not. I think Summer has a story that she needs to tell you about telephone call.
Oh, about my husband's when his phone called mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should tell that story.
To tell the story. I just I had gotten a new phone, but it wasn't very new. I had had it a couple months, but my husband's gone. He's deceased, and he'd been deceased probably about 3 years, I think. And I had my phone on the kitchen table, and he's in my contacts. He was in my contacts, and the phone rings, and I go over to it, and his name came up on it was his contact. And I was like, how can that even happen? Because I knew that I used to have Sprint, that they gave him his number to somebody else. So anyway, I tried to answer it, I think. And it was like, there was nothing, like there was nobody there. And I was like, then I thought I imagined it. So, but then it was right there. Like the call came in and it was on my record, because I showed it to my daughter. And then I went over to Sprint to try to figure out what happened. I went over to Sprint and asked the guy how that could happen. And he's like, it shouldn't have happened. And I said, well, his number's been reassigned, right? And he was like, yes, it has been. He said, so even if somebody, whoever it's reassigned to, called you, it wouldn't come up. It would come up as an unknown number now for you. He said, then how would they call you anyway? He said, because it's nobody you know, I'm sure. He was kind of freaked out. So anyway, it was bothering me. So I called my husband's old number. I got a hold of some lady, and I kind of just told her what was going on. And she was like, well, goodness. And I was like, I just want to know, did you accidentally call me today somehow? I said, I don't know how in the world that could happen. She's like, no, because she said, basically, I use my phone for texting mostly. And she said, so no, I didn't even make any calls today. She said, I'm sorry to hear about your husband and all that. But, and I guess she didn't think I was crazy, but it was weird. And I just couldn't figure it out. And it wasn't like there was a message he was trying to tell me. I don't think anything was going on in my life at that time that, if it was a warning or something, it didn't seem like. It was just strange. So, yeah. And I've heard people say that happens. And then somebody was telling me, they tried to tell me, they were like, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that number was reassigned. If you've got it in your contacts, it can call you. So I'm like, I don't know.
No. It's possible if they were given the same SIM card and your contact was still stored on that SIM card, but that's very unlikely.
But then I'd be getting calls from this lady all the time, and actually she said, I've had the number a while, and I was like, yeah, that's what I was just trying to figure it out. And the guy at the Sprint store was like, he was kind of freaked out. He was probably in his late 20s. He's like, I really don't even know how that could happen. So yeah, that's just unexplained stuff. I don't know if it's really technology, but and then we were talking about, we used to have a computer. It was in this room. Well, we lived in this old haunted house. So the library where we had our computer, that room was always weird. And Austin was talking about how sometimes the printer, it would just start printing. And I know, because I've worked at a university, you get jobs in the queue, but we didn't have any jobs in the queue there a lot of time. It just print some odd thing or just print nothing. It was strange.
Well, that could just be down to faulty equipment.
Huh?
Possible. That could be just down to faulty, yeah.
Yeah, and back in the old days too, like that was back in the 90s when you first get, you getting the computers and setting up the printers and all that crap, it's always kind of weird. But yeah. Austin had recorded and had some weird stuff happen at our house. Remember, Austin, did you tell him about that?
No. There's been a number of times where I was recording in my studio and stuff, and I would pick up things that I didn't hear while I was recording. I'd go back and listen to the recording, and stuff would be in it. So I think sometimes I've tied this back to the unexplained or the world of the unexplained.
Yeah, we heard the woman talking in video, right? That was strange.
Yeah, that was
That could
weird.
be down to position of speakers or microwaves, or yeah, it could be some sort of external interference.
That could be too. Yeah, that's possible.
Right.
Now, see, that's important right there because, like, believe it or not, Mark, what you did is you helped debunk or frickin' verify things. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you just told, what's her face? I'm having a brain fart. Summer is something that verifies that this shouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? Like, her incident is something that shouldn't have happened when it comes to electronics. Whereas you told Austin that could have been because of feedback, it could have been from technical issues, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So and that is the way it usually works out. You know what I mean? That's actually a part of the paranormal too. Like, a lot of people don't see that because they always watch Ghost Hunters and some cool freaking show where people are running from ghosts in dark alleys.
Isn't the term paranormal attributed to things they cannot explain?
Right. Exactly.
So in Austin's case, his issues could have been explained because of bad placement of speakers, as an example.
Right. And see, that's what I'm saying. That's also a part of, like, doing the whole paranormal thing. Like, people also debunk it to where they make sure that it's verified. Like, you don't just go out and say that this is a paranormal event when there's something that can be freaking attributed to it. You know what I mean? Like speakers or stuff like that.
Right.
I think sometimes, I mean, I'm not a skeptic when it comes to paranormal, but sometimes you do get more credibility by debunking things that are not paranormal, as opposed to, things that are really unexplainable.
Right.
Because you got some people, they think everything's paranormal phenomenon, but it not always. It isn't always. So you got to learn to debunk some things, and then that way you sort out better what's unexplained and what isn't.
Right.
I did think it was odd recordings because most of the time you didn't have a lot of interference. It was their very clear recordings you have, Austin, and then scared the one where, and not, like it sounds like somebody's walking around downstairs in the house, and that's funny too because we didn't have carpet, we had big rugs and stuff, so it was really strange. It was pretty weird.
Now, one thing I would suggest is try to reenact the sound.
Yeah, I think we've done that before too.
Do it from any kind of way that you could possibly imagine, and if you can't duplicate the exact audio that you got, then something's up.
Right.
Okay.
It could be.
Yeah,
I don't know. It could be. Thinking about it, it could be wind. It could be, I don't know, rodents in the crevices or your walls or something. It could be a million and one different things. Yeah.
And then I think when you left for a little bit, we talked about another phone thing that happened. Maybe it's weird because it was my husband's phone again, but this was when he was alive. He was in a room with my daughter, and they were on a computer, and she had her little cell phone beside her. And then Austin was in another room. We were talking, and then so my husband's phone was in another room on a dining room table, and I think it was off. So he was with my daughter, and I guess he got like an incoming call from his phone. So he comes storming out to the living room, and was Austin. I don't know how old Austin was then. A little bit young. He was maybe just a teenager, but maybe not even a teenager. And my husband was like, I told you to quit messing with my phone all the time. And actually, Austin really didn't mess with his phone much anyway, but he was like, I told you to leave my phone alone. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, because Austin had been here with me the whole time. I said, where is your phone? I didn't even know where his phone was. And he was like, it was on the dining room. He had to go in the dining room. And I was like, no, he didn't. I said, he's been here with me the whole time. So, and I even think, like I was telling Roger, I think the phone was off. I think his phone was off. So I don't know and how his phone called my daughter's phone. But like I said, I think if you do believe in ghosts, I believe our house was haunted. And those were the two worst rooms too. There was a dining room that was pretty haunted. And then, like I said, that weird computer room. There was always weird stuff going on in there anyway. So I don't know what that was about, but yeah. And I think what there was if there is such a thing as ghosts, it liked to mess with people in the house and make them mad at each other. And Austin and his dad didn't always get along, so it was like, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So, you noticed that, didn't you, Austin?
Yeah, I did.
See, I told Mark before we got on here that he was going to have to deal with some hardcore situations in this conversation. So, I just now got him to where he would talk about Shakespeare and stuff like that with me, and
yeah, yeah.
So, what is your take, though, Mark, when it comes to, like, spirits, even supernatural? Like, there's a difference between supernatural and paranormal and technology. Right. So, like, what's your take on that? Do you think there's any kind of valid point to it?
I am going to go down on my sort of agnostic sort of approach on this one. There is no evidence no direct evidence to suggest that there is such things as ghosts.
Yeah.
Not to say there isn't, but there is no actual direct evidence.
Right. Well, they never really have. Yeah. I mean, if you look at people's stories and stuff, I guess, you have to think maybe
you have to think there's something to it, even though we have direct evidence.
Right.
Right.
I kind of never really believed in ghosts or anything until I moved into that house. I mean, there had been some weird stuff happen to me a little bit here and there, especially at my parents' house where I grew up. But I never really overthought that, and I kind of forgot it as I was getting older. And then we moved to this house, and it definitely had its share of events that were unexplained. So
yeah, funny you mentioned. Funny you mentioned that. My parents' place, the place that I grew up in, my mum always used to say there was a ghost in the attic. I always put it down just to wind, and it was it's a 3-story sort of normal terrace house. So yeah, I always put that down to wind.
Right. Yeah, I think always a way you can maybe say, oh, it could be something else. Yeah.
But do you think that possibly there could be a connection between electronics and ghosts, if ghosts did exist?
There is an argument to say that when you die, for a better word, your soul is we are energy related beings, and energy doesn't disperse or doesn't get destroyed. So you could argue that is a form of a soul, and therefore if energy doesn't get destroyed, the soul, quote unquote, is still out there somewhere.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Right. That does make sense. Like, we've actually mentioned that before. It's like energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
Now that is probably, I would say, about the closest we have to scientific evidence that there could be some kind of afterlife, is the fact that we know we're made up of energy, and it always exists. So I mean, that could very well, that energy, when it's gone, or even when we're still alive, could interfere with electronics in ways that we're not scientifically aware of as of yet.
Right. Right.
But to call a soul or energy a conscious entity is a bit, yeah, it's a bit of a weird sort of concept.
Right.
Well, see, that's
Mm.
also something that a lot of people, even in the paranormal world, have a issue with. Like there's different kinds of paranormal. Like we were talking the other day about uh, what did they call that? Where freaking something is like burned into a certain time period or a certain area where spirit will do things over and over again.
Oh, repeat hauntings.
Yeah, repeat,
Yeah,
repeat
Oh.
hauntings, and
Now,
yeah,
it's
like
not
imprint on the energy of the area from
right.
some event.
yeah.
Whatnot.
Yeah,
But you know what? Now this is kind of off of that though. But we did have a show. Um, we were talking about people that are sliders. Like, have you ever heard of that? Um,
Sort of going from one
no,
place to another
no,
time
no,
place.
that's TV show.
no, they're
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
they're people.
Yeah, that's what I first thought of. But when I was talking about the sliders,
No, it goes directly with computers and electronics and stuff. It's a phenomena because I noticed it with my daughter, and Austin can attest to this. When she was going through puberty, she'd get mad or she'd be mad at a boyfriend, and like light bulbs and stuff, she just like they just like go out. And I was like, what is going on with her? Or if like she had watches, she couldn't wear watches. Computers would do weird stuff because I guess it's just a real intense energy she had.
Mm.
And so I was reading a story about it. A woman said, I can't wear watches because if I get upset or I'm highly emotional, they never work. And they're sliders. They
Mm.
call them sliders, and they affect like there's actually people sometimes at work, if they get upset, they mess up their computers. Their computers just are messed up. And that's actually I think they've pretty much proven that there are some people like that. And it was weird. I was talking about it at work one day to one of my student workers, and there was a professor, and he's like, I can't wear watches, and he's a real intelligent guy. He was like, I can't wear watches. I can't. He said they are all. He said I've got a box of watches at home, and he said they all blip out. He said I don't know if it's something with my chemistry or so there, I think there is something to that, but because some of us have more energy or electronic energy or electrical energy or something.
Oh, I've heard.
Yeah, I've heard the watch thing before. As far as computers concerned, of course we don't generally use them anymore. Mechanical hard drives, magnetic based. So I'll take cassette tape, we got
Yeah,
old floppy disks, are all magnetic based, and
yeah.
obviously, energy, electricity can actually change the flow of that magnetism.
Oh, the magnetic. Yeah. Okay, I can see
Hmm.
that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Now I've also heard of like people walking by freaking telephone poles and the poles literally going off.
That's what my daughter did. Yeah,
Okay.
she walk under a street light and it just would go off. It wouldn't blow up, but it would just go off. And she's still got that weird energy. I think she's harnessed it a little now. She's a little older, but yeah, it's strange.
Hmm.
But whatever it is, I agree with Mark. It is rotated around electricity in some way, electromagnetism or some kind of energy related to electricity.
Right.
I do think that's I do think that's a good basis for explaining the paranormals, like the theory of energy and electromagnetic energy and what have you.
Yeah.
How it ties into technology. So technology, in a lot of ways, with everything, including emergent, if emergent, some of that could be a bridge between the worlds, so to speak, that we unintentionally created.
Right.
And we also endowed technology with a life of its own by combining so many operations together that result in outcomes we didn't realize, and things like that. So that kind of does branch out into that without our intending to. This is kind of the world where skepticism and debunking things meets the paranormal, which is that's really interesting how they kind of intertwine.
Yeah.
So we are definitely at the hour, man.
Oh yeah.
You wanna call it a day, or are you guys done with your questions? I'm
Any more?
finished. I
the final
unloaded.
thoughts.
I unloaded. I finally got Mark on an episode that was about freaking ghosts and UFOs and all that good stuff. So guess what? I hit him with the hard one. Like, I actually asked him, I was like, do you think that technology will someday turn against man and destroy civilization as we know it?
Oh my goodness.
And,
That's so dramatic.
well, I have to
I
be.
mean, didn't we virtually see that with COVID?
Yeah.
The creation of my virus, and yeah.
Now
outside the
be
land.
careful there. Now, don't be saying no extra words.
Okay, but
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to be careful with those extra words. The ingredients especially is what will get us. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of anything really right now. I think we pretty much asked him a lot, right, Austin?
I think we did cover a lot of pretty interesting stuff. Now, if you want to hang out after the show, you can hear my recording for everything about aliens, because that's another thing I've been trying to get more.
That's another thing that's supposed to affect computers and lights and all that stuff, isn't it?
now,
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but I'm not a big alien person, but I don't know. There might be something to it because a lot of people have seen them. So to say that,
you guys
they claim
understand.
to see them.
You guys understand. This could be a little too hardcore for Mark. I mean, he's like, now we're talking about ghosts. I had him on talking about Shakespeare. Now you want to talk about aliens with him? He's gonna not talk to me for like.
Is that too much for him to deal with at one time?
No, I think I'm okay.
You're gonna be able to handle it. Okay, cool. Because
Maybe.
we've got some pretty good stuff that we're going to be talking about. So.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I'm frozen up right now, so I need to get off and back on because I can't. Everything froze up.
I'll
get off and back on. Oh. What? Go ahead.
I can hear you. It's just give it a second, and it probably will pull the video and everything back up. Your phone has to adjust.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe maybe should I refresh it or no?
If I was you, I wouldn't touch it. Every time you touch them things, that something happens.
Okay.
What, wrap this up and do a whole other show, or what are you guys just like continuing on here, or what's going on?
Well, you have to say something to end the show, and then I have to hit stop stream, and and it's all good, and then we can just keep.
Okay. And then we'll sit and talk after the stream about what I'm gonna talk about for a minute, and then he'll record me talking about it.
So you got to say your fancy words.
Well, just invite me back in after I get off of here, and I'm gonna go get something to eat. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I think we're all done tonight with everything, and thanks, Mark, for helping us with our questions
Oh,
and
it's been fun.
show.
Yeah, thank you for joining the show, Mark. It's always good to talk to you.
Okay.
So,
Well, have a good weekend, everyone. Want me to get out here? I don't know how to get out.